So question on my mind, and this goes off of what Bernice was saying about how much power and influence corporations actually do have. So what inspired this coalition of the 72 Black executives to action? What inspired you? What brought this about?
So I think what's very important, and first let me say, Al, that delighted to be here, delighted that you've put this together. Bernice is just fantastic. And I'm always glad to be with my brother, Robert Smith, and someone who has not just focused on business success, but understands what the role of business is in our society. And one of the most important things from a principle standpoint is I believe corporations exist because society allows us to exist. And so we have a role in improving society. And if we want to build enduring companies, we need a strong society. So the first point with respect to voters' rights is we did something historic. For the first time ever, African-American executives in the corporate sector came together collectively on a social issue. And we did this because we all know how important the vote is in this country and for Black Americans in general. We had to die in many cases for the right to vote. Yeah. Your father, that was his focus. And so we felt that we needed to take a stand as African-American executives and say to our colleagues in corporate America that we need you to understand that we will not remain silent. The right to vote is fundamental, and we felt corporate America needed to stand up and publicly oppose discriminatory legislation and all measures designed to limit this right. And as someone who was born 4 years before Brown v. Board of Education, just think if companies had asserted that they would not stand for separate but equal. Just think if companies had said when schools were integrated that corporations would be integrated. Just think where our society would have been. So that's why we took a stand. And that's why people like Robert came together. We all came together, not for any individual agenda, but for the agenda, frankly, of America. Clearly, Black Americans are going to benefit, but we live in a democracy. Robert, why don't you give your point of view?
Brother Ken, thank you. And Sister Bernice, it's always good to be with you and Brother Al. I appreciate you all pulling together this beloved community. Brother Chenault hit it exactly right. We as African Americans have fought so long. Your family has fought, and to ensure that we have the ability to participate in this democracy, the ability to participate in this bounty that is America. And corporate America, to Ken's point, exists because we allow it to exist. It is the most trusted, I'll call it, agent that we see in our communities today, as employers, and providing elements that stabilize, call it the stakeholders of our community. But we have a responsibility. It isn't a responsibility just about profits. It's a responsibility about all stakeholders having an opportunity to participate in the bounty that is this country, really for the first time. We are all of similar age in some respects. I mean, I'm the first generation of my family that has all their rights in America. And the last thing we need to do is see it eroded. And so the beautiful thing that there's a number of things that came out of the civil rights movement, one of which is it created opportunities for many of us to get into corporate America. And now that we are there, we have to not just feel privileged to have an opportunity to take care of our individual families, but understand that it is our beloved community that we are responsible for. And part of that is exercising the extent that corporate America has influence on state legislature, has influence on federal legislature, has influence on the community of workers. And, I think it was Leo Smith earlier was saying, listen, it's critically important that we all, exercise our voice. There are a number of us who had an opportunity to exercise our voice in newspaper that really started to spur the business community, the business roundtable, and others to stand up and say, these are my friends and my colleagues who really view this as important. And then they were no longer silent. But it's critical that we get to social media, that we get to everyone who is working out there in any format to ensure that we don't let these actions that are now starting to mount proceed. And it's critically important that we do that together as a beloved community.
I would just add one thing that's very important here that Robert highlighted. The major difference now is we're in the room where it happens. And when you're in the room where it happens, you got to speak up. You got to understand what the agenda is. So what's very clear is we're not outside the room anymore. But the question is, when you're in the room and you're at the table, what are you doing to move things forward? And so we're very focused on moving things forward.
So you're really talking about courage, which is essential to leadership, and especially today. I mean, those were courageous acts that our parents took over and over again in the 50s and 60s, and they birthed us out. They helped open up this world to us